All right, we are live. So, um, January 6th footage. Supposedly, there's 44 between I don't know between 41 and 44 hours, 1,000 hours of um, video that is supposed to be released by the Department of Justice or Kevin McCarthy. Um, it doesn't seem like it's going to come out exactly how Kevin McCarthy's been telling people that he's going to release this footage. He let's listen into Owen Schroyer talk about it real quick.
All sorts of important topics that we're going to be covering today. But I want to just focus on one quickly. And the story's been slowly developing. I've got other headlines about this. But it's the new Republican leadership of Kevin McCarthy, the House Speaker, promising he was going to release the January 6th footage to the public. That has not happened. And despite some murmurings and clamorings about Tucker Carlson's crew getting access to some of it, it was very restricted. But not even to get into the hairs of that, Kevin McCarthy, as of right now, you are a liar. You have not released the January 6th footage to the public like you promised you would so that you could become Speaker of the House. So you're a liar. Now, you could make right on that. You could still release it. But aside from that, what have we seen in response to the idea of the January 6th footage being released? Well, from Stephen Colbert and his late night talk show, which is just a Democrat Party propaganda machine. That's it. He just takes his talking points from the Democrat Party propaganda. It's not even late night TV. It's not even comedy. It's not too hard to figure that out. From pushing you a vaccine that's going to poison you for a year to going on air this week saying, we can't release the January 6th footage. Like literally he's reading off a Democrat teleprompter. We can't release the footage. It will release national security secrets. It'll show people where the cameras are at. It's too dangerous. Representative Benny Thompson, Democrat. Warren's release.
Now, Owen's been, I'd say Owen's been keeping it as real or realer than Alex lately. Really, I mean, he's been coming into his own. He used to be a little bit more, I don't know, kind of. His like shtick was to be like go into hostile areas and be kind of abrasive and ask kind of gotcha questions, which I didn't think was like that great. Just because you kind of know what you're going to get with that sort of thing. Even though it is interesting to just to see the hysteria and the, him get the insane reactions from the inclusion and equity crowd, but what's interesting is people, I don't know, I mean, I think Owen keeps it real as far as not getting too caught up into, I think Alex has gotten caught up into the left right kind of paradigm, and so he'll get caught up like pushing for Trump or talking about how cool MTG is or something like that. And none of these people at the end of the day have really been that great. I mean, Trump called out the media and this, that, and the next, but he didn't do anything about it. He just let them run wild. So it's like, yeah, you called him out, but the tyranny only 10x'd under him. And so it's like, can we really say he was that great? I mean, he was a good talker, but I mean, he's kind of a little worm, spineless little worm as far as became like when it got down to the real business. I mean, yeah, he pretended to be tough on China and all this stuff. That's like easy geopolitical stuff to like be strong on because of the position that he was in with the money and the military that he had. Um, it was I don't know. And then when it actually came down to things in 2020, standing up to the deep state or clearing house.
Please, some January 6th video could compromise Capitol security. Chuck Schumer coming out saying the same thing. We can't release this. What are you, nuts? What are you, crazy? Well, I bet if it was showing something Trump did, they'd want it released. I bet if it showed their narrative of what happened on January 6th to be true, a bunch of Trump supporters going in there trying to insurrect, then they'd want you to see it. But they don't. And now here's a journalist, Dana Milbank, saying you can't see it in clip 3.
Speaker Kevin McCarthy is under fire for sharing 44,000 hours of surveillance camera footage from January 6th with Fox News host Tucker Carlson. Other media organizations, including NBC News, have demanded access to the tapes as well. The speaker is more than just a political leader. They also oversee the day-to-day administration of the Capitol, including security. Is there something unprecedented about what McCarthy has done here, Dana?
Yeah, I mean, day after day, it seems that he breaks precedent after precedent. This is another one of the promises he made to the holdouts to give him the speakership. According to Matt Gaetz himself, this is one of the things that Kevin McCarthy promised, to release all of this footage.
So this is classic Republicans. I mean, they're more dangerous than the left, in my opinion, because you get these good old boy looking faces, but they're rats at the end of the day. McCarthy's a little rat at the end of the day. He hates you. He wants you enslaved. He wants you in a pod eating bugs, eating that cricket juice, having that cockroach meatloaf, having that silk. He wants you doing that. And yet he stands up and says the exact opposite. At least with what's the girl for that they call themselves, the Big Four or something? I don't know. Teeny Boppers, Spice Girl, something like that. The Squad, I think. I think it's the Squad, I believe. And at least with them, who they are and what their intentions are. They hate the country. They want to make sure that it's worse than they found it. They want to make sure that they siphon off the wealth of the country into different, different aggrieved groups and different connected households and families. And while that's evil, pure evil, at least you can respect the fact that they're, not being honest about it, because they're obviously using, victim groups, minorities, that sort of thing to kind of bamboozle and trick into going along and then pull out the wrong from them, after, the bag is secure. But with a guy like old Kevin McCarthy or MTG or, any of these scumbags, they pretend to be, somebody who's going to fight for the average American, um, you know, cares about, you know, the agenda that they say that they're going to promote or that they're going to um, pass legislation on, or the laws that they're going to get in, um, at least into a bill and get into a vote. But they don't ever get any of that done, unless it's something written by Goldman or Citibank. Um, these fat losers, these fat scumbags, pretend to be these good old boys and then sell you out and use you as chattel. You're nothing more than some slaves, some serfs to be bargained off to, you know, we'll compromise with the Democrats and we'll just use our bargaining tool of, these idiot religious people who, have faith as us for no reason at all, time after time, because we just spout the same BS and then flip the script on them once it comes down to actually doing it. And here it is with the J6 stuff. He makes a deal with Matt Gaetz to solidify himself as Speaker of the House. Gets in as Speaker of the House, and then he's a little limp dick, a little loser, a worm, an exoskeleton. He's nothing more than a bug man. He has no spine. He's just a bug man, and he'll do whatever he needs to do to get his fat little double chin to be a fat little triple chin, and to make sure his fat little do nothing children, and family get unfair and unearned privilege. Not, I don't want to say privilege. Let's say unearned status and wealth that is, stolen and ill-gotten. Um, he's a bamboozler, a swindler, and that's what most of these Republicans are. They just talk up this game, act like they're. It's like a game, just like the left used to be for the blue collar workers, and then they sold them all out, and then now they're boy, the Wall Street kind of stands, and the victimhood group stands, and then the Republicans pretend to make the switch back to supporting blue collar workers, but they don't give a flying fuck about you. They'll ship in the illegals, drive down the wages, give out free money to our business buddies, and blame every uh, bit of inflation on the $1,200 stimulus check that we gave to average people, and then blame you know Trump and MAGA for that, and then you know keep status quo. Fat boys in, the fat country club boys in, and they can keep, I don't know what these guys do, golf, or go get a, go get a blowy from a, one of the readers at the trans, you know, public, book club reading at the local library. These are the guys who go and see them. This is the Kevin McCarthy's. It's the, it's all these, it's all these red boys. They're all just gutless losers. Even Matt Gaetz, I mean, he makes this trade here with McCarthy to make sure he gets in. And that, MTG, she's, she's anybody who had faith in her at any point is a nut. She's just a nut who, is going to say that we shouldn't be at war with, Russia and, support Ukraine, but yet, behind closed doors, she's going to be buying Lockheed, buying Chevron, buying Raytheon, making sure that, you know, all this, stuff gets funded. She'll go on Tucker, pretend like she put up a fight. I put up a fight in a battle I knew I couldn't win, and I made sure I wouldn't get any allies or you know any compromise on the matter. It'll just be me making a scene, getting nothing accomplished, but you know the people who I'm supposed to be helping, through the average American, the blue collar workers who they say they're going to help, make sure they get sold out, make sure they get their wealth taken, their bodies violated, raped, their livelihood destroyed, communities destroyed, um, atomized, isolated, at home, masked up, vaxxed up, watching the war, hoping for more. It's wild. But anyway, let's see what else I have to say.
Doing your job. So that's release it specific. Washington Post columnist Dana Milbank about to tell you can't see the footage. So he's working for you then, because you don't want us to see the footage, and he hasn't followed through. He hasn't made good on his promise to release the footage. But see, it's never enough with these tyrants. They want full control of Kevin McCarthy. They don't even like him releasing it to Fox News crews. But think about it like this. Why don't the Democrats want you to see that footage? Why are the January 6th defendants in court fighting to have that footage released, but not the people claiming that they're guilty of an insurrection? And the same question you could apply to the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. All these European countries are demanding an investigation into the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. You know who's shutting that down? Joe Biden. Why don't they want you to see the January 6th footage? Why don't they want you to know who did the Nord Stream 2 pipeline? The truth is because the Democrats did both of those events. It's the final countdown for free.
Yeah, and they'll just, if Kevin McCarthy even gets close to, creating real waves, releasing this footage to the public, which, if it were incriminating to and helped the insurrection narrative, then obviously it would be released by now. But it hasn't been released because it shows that it was a honeypot. It was a setup. It was a false flag event. It was a burning of the Reichstag moment, which was a false flag event to help, that boy Adolf get in, and solidify himself. And and then they do the exact same thing with this J6, and then anybody who attempts to get real footage released, or the real culprits and the real Q Bono, who benefited from this. It wasn't anybody on the MAGA team. They were asking for a 10-day stay on the on the election, and that never even got to a debate in Congress because this faux event happened, and now we can't even see the footage because of why? Because it shows exactly what you think it shows. It shows that it's a honeypot. It's a setup. Cops even knew that they were getting set up as part of this. The protesters were there as a setup. They had agent provocateurs there, feds, glowies, all over the place, causing real damage, working to get the crowd really riled up, working to incriminate the crowd at large, so that you could prevent that 10-day stay, and any new evidence or anything about the election schmelection, the funny business that happened in or around that period. Any conversation about that was not even discussed on the floor because this event happened. And so who benefited? Well, it seems like it wasn't in anybody in MAGA's team to do that, to start that, even with the Pence announcement right before that he, you know, wasn't going to cause, wasn't going to, I believe, vote in favor of this 10-day stay. So it might have just been some sort of conversation on the House or the in the Senate floor or whatever. But we never even saw what that was, and so um, nobody from that team benefited. Only the people who were trying to subvert the information, subvert the reality, were the ones who, want to make sure that isn't discussed. I can't even really say specific words or too much about that because you know I'm not even allowed to say that on Section 230 protected platform. So it is kind of difficult to try and code talk through this. But anybody who tries to discuss that is, covered up, made sure they can't speak, censored. Um, and so it seemed like it was a benefit to, the incoming ruling regime, who maybe won via fiat, to make sure that that there was a big issue, and then that none of the evidence of that issue was ever reviewed, and to make sure that you then had an event so that you could chill public dissent, make sure that nobody talked about any of this stuff. And so you had that, and then you got these spineless dudes in Congress who you know I couldn't do anything. Don't get used to anything being done. You're a youngin' watching. Don't even. I mean, you should know what the situation in the world is, but um, you know, it's kind of locked in. Not much people can do. We're in the domination period. Despite what they'll try to tell you.
Strategically, it can actually be quite important. And in order to do that, we really need to be narrow and targeted and specific with what we're looking at. And I've said publicly that the two places to look at, and you want to look at, of course, any footage that exists that could help enlighten the situation regarding the pipe bomber, but perhaps more optimistically, since the pipe bomber thing was more at the DNC, and I think the Capitol Police have some cameras around there, but maybe not as many, not as good as the DNC ones. But where you can really get some leverage out of this is examining the footage around the Peace Monument. That's the position right around the western perimeter of the Capitol where that initial and decisive Ray Epps breach occurred. And the reason that that's such an important place to look at, specifically between time of, say, 10 a.m. and when the breach occurred around 12:52, is that that's where, as we showed in Revolver, that's where that curious cast of characters, the handful of critical actors who played a decisive role in turning that rally into a riot, the critical actors who have not been indicted and in many cases haven't even been identified, we can learn more about them. And specifically, the now infamous and mysterious scaffold commander, the fence cutter bulwark, and other characters who haven't been identified because there's not a lot of great footage available on them. The Capitol Police footage could, if we get clear and close shots of some of these people, could lead to the positive identification, which could be an absolute game changer.
So Darren, we got to get to a break here. There's so many different angles I want to unpack with you. But did you say 41,000 hours? I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Not 14,000?
Oh, I mean, however many
Okay.
many thousands of hours. The
Got
point is that
Yeah, so the point is, Beatty does great, great investigatory journalism, and it's great that he's gotten a lot of these, what excerpts we've gotten and what answers we've gotten as far as the Ray Epps stuff. Some of the footage that's been released, that was a lot of the Revolver team and Darren Beatty. So I mean, it is good work, but at some level, maybe I'm jaded because I've never really seen the good guys win. But I mean, nobody ever has. The bad guys never lose and never pay the price. Nobody ever paid for, lying about WMDs in Iraq, 9/11, Gulf of Tonkin, the crack, CIA and the crack epidemic, funding that, or funding the I believe they're using, like, they were funding Honduras, I believe, war, a revolution in Honduras. Iran-Contra. Why did I just put in Honduras? No, it was Nicaragua. And so using, drug trade and the, you doomed. I mean, it didn't doom, but you got a large swath of the American public addicted to drugs, all to sell, to gain, black budget money so that you could overthrow some government overseas. And that's kind of encapsulates the situation that we're in. We're being, the bad guys never lose. And so it's nice that Darren does great work, but yeah, I would focus on just helping yourself and your family. I mean, Tate isn't lying as far as like just get money and like I guess buy cars because you're not going to do anything about escaping the tyranny. And your money isn't yours because they'll take it whenever they want. So you might as well buy some cool shit while you got it. Because at the end of the day, most of you are just ants, and nobody's gonna get up and do anything. So just be to the gulags for most everyone, and I guess if you're rich, you'll get nice bugs. Maybe not roach meatloaf, but maybe you'll get cricket pasta. Maybe with tomato sauce, with real tomatoes. Even though those aren't the greatest foods, just hearing real tomatoes will be enough. Um, yeah, I hope I'm wrong though. Hope this is just a black pill day, and I'm just hating. Um, I mean, I'm not really black pilled. I think things will be fine as far as the world's going to be kind of exactly the same in a few years. I wouldn't expect that much like I don't know innovation other than there's going to be a lot of surveillance innovation, a lot of tech, smart tech, surveillance tech, food tech, which will be fake food tech. Um, you have innovation around that sort of thing, but as far as helping humans, helping the environment, cleaning the water, cleaning the soil, cleaning the food, um, taking care of the food that we do eat better. So having more sustainable farming, like not not farm or factory lab grown meat, but instead like a um, if you've heard of Joel Salatin or um, there's a guy I believe his name's I don't want to say it's Will Smith, but it's he he's got a similar operation down in Texas. But this guy Joel Salatin, Perma something farms in Virginia, and essentially it's a really sustainable way of raising ethical and sustainable way of raising livestock and um, farming using the entire cycle of life. He has his cows out in the pasture. They eat grass. They're out. They're grass eating fruit. That sounds crazy just to say that cows are doing what they're supposed to do out in the pasture, roaming, eating grass. But um, as opposed to on a farm eating grain food at a trough and just stuck in mud or something. Um, and then he has um, the he has his pigs. His chickens he'll let the chickens out to pick the bugs out of the cow pies and clean the fields, clear the cow pies, um, and put that in a pen. And then the pigs love to roll around. It's no, Pigs are notorious for this, but they love to roll around and poop. And what they actually do is they release the methane from those cow pies, and then make those cow pies a fertilizer that can be used on your farm again and can you know increase the organic content of your soil, creating better grass, better things for your livestock to eat, for then um, to have more nutritious steaks, uh, better fat content, you know, better meat, no glyphosate, none of this BS, DNA destroying, um, pesticides or um, you know, GMO, roundups or whatever. So, that is a better way to go into the future as opposed to the, you know, dysgenic, bug eating, uh, life destroying, anti human path forward. So I do hope that we, I'm all for environmental stewardship, but it's, some of the keywords that a lot of these the destroyers, the second handers, the Gates types will use are words like, sustainable farming or something like that. And they'll completely warp that meaning so that instead of thinking like, oh, that means like cows eating grass in a pasture the way they're supposed to, what he means by sustainable farming is growing weird, you know, estrogen filled meat in a laboratory that costs hundreds of millions of dollars, and then sell that out to the public as sustainable sourced meat, and then God knows what the secondary effects are going to be on humans and the DNA, once they start eating all this lab grown BS and this, you know um, not Wonder Burger, but what is it called? Impossible Burgers. Um, and so that that's not the way. But anyways, there's a mass drone attack unleashed air raid sirens inside Russia. So this is yet another escalation in this war. Looks like there was about 150 miles southeast of Crimean Peninsula, was an attack on an oil facility. And so these attacks are starting to go into Russia, which is a sign that, I mean, obviously we knew that things were not going to subside anytime soon, but it is. And then there's the NATO chief here saying that they have agreed to make Ukraine basically a part of NATO.
What's the internal growth? So both NATO allies have agreed that Ukraine will become a member of our alliance, but at the same time, that is a long-term perspective. What is the issue now is to ensure that Ukraine prevail as a sovereign independent nation, and that therefore we need to support Ukraine.
I see that the future of Ukraine is to be part of European Union and also member of NATO. We have taken many steps forward when it comes to military aid to Ukraine, and I'm very glad that we are now cooperating together much more closely to give Ukraine more heavy weapons. I think the discussion now, even though has taken some time, it's been very important concerning, for example, the Leopards. So countries are cooperating together more closely and more widely. And this is a very good thing. We have to support Ukraine as long as it takes. And they also need more heavy weapons. And the faster and the sooner we can give them more heavy weapons, the sooner the war will end. And this is.
So more heavy weapons for Ukraine. Janet Yellen was in Ukraine yesterday, the Treasury Secretary. I mean, it's all clown world stuff. They had Ukrainian troops in Charleston, South Carolina, giving them prosthetic legs and stuff. While our veterans, get no help whatsoever, and it's a peeing on your face at all time situation. They're giving hundreds of billions to Ukraine. Yellen's in Ukraine talking about how they're going to give, another 10 billion, and that'll be the first tranche. And it's obviously, it's obviously foreign aid is using public tax money as foreign aid, and it's basically just money washing back into pockets of the war makers here in the U.S. And some of the corrupt oligarchs over in Ukraine, and it's gonna go like it was in Iraq, and it'll be trillions of dollars because it's just too easy, and the American public is just too dumb and susceptible. They love, eating up a good war, putting a little Ukraine flag outside, asking for some nukes to be dropped. And, that's who the nation is at this point. As sad as that is. I'm just trying to keep it real, guys. I know that's black pill, but that's where the country is. I mean, we'll go to war. We're probably gonna end up. I mean, I wouldn't be. I doubt it'll be. I don't know. I don't even know if nukes are real at this point, or satellites after all these balloon things. But I think we're headed towards some sort of mass casualty depopulation event. You've already been in the midst of it here with different things, which brings me to um, my other talking point, which was this Woody Harrelson.
Okay, so the movie goes like this. The biggest drug cartels in the world get together and buy up all the media and all the politicians and force all the people in the world to stay locked in their homes, and people can only come out if they take the cartel's drugs and keep taking them over and over. I threw the script away. I mean, who is going to believe that crazy idea? Okay, so the movie.
So that was pretty awesome that he said that on Saturday Night Live. I'm sure, that's caused outrage. People, there's a lot of happiness that he said that, but obviously, a lot of the regulars are mad that he would mention the truth in such a public manner. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say this word or this. I know I can't say this word, but basically there's an article that the experts now believe that a lab leak was the most likely origin of the thing. And this guy says he wrote about it in January 2020. And said basically it was a baseless conspiracy theory. A lot of people have been saying that, obviously the confirmation is a day late, dollar short. It's after, millions of lives are ruined, jobs are lost, livelihoods destroyed, and all you get is a sorry back. It's kind of pathetic, if you ask me. I'm not accepting that. It's not over until that money is redistributed. If you know what I'm saying. To that wealth that was stolen is redistributed back to the right hands. Then maybe. But sorry's just not going to cut it. And the amount of destruction that was done on purpose. You know, it was the greatest crime that was ever committed against humanity to this point. Could be another one even bigger around the corner to cover this one up, but I doubt it. I doubt anybody's gonna do anything to the people who actually, you know, made this thing and released it on purpose. Um, they're still trying to say it was an accidental release, but come on now. We already saw we already see the Fauci stuff about the surprise stuff that's going to happen and all that stuff that we can't talk about on here. So we have to sound like we don't really know anything. But we all heard that. We were alive. And we know that it's not going to cut it. Well, the behavior of a certain cadre of scientists who use every trick in the book to suppress discussion of this issue is something I'll never forget. A huge disservice to science and public health. They should be profoundly embarrassed. They should be in prison forever. And the fact that, like I was saying earlier, with little impotent exoskeleton, little worm men, bug men, Republicans who pretend to want to do something, and it's like, they should be embarrassed. Say you're sorry twice, and then I'll say okay. It's like, no, that's not going to cut it, brother. It'll be over when they're in prison, and nothing else is going to say that it's, that no profound embarrassment's going to cut it. It's not a huge disservice to science and public health because they've subverted both of those. And so they run those things still. And so until anybody's in jail or any of this stuff's been dealt with, then the disservice is just going to keep on. We're going to keep on getting disserviced. And then the Nate Silvers of the world are going to keep on telling people to be profoundly embarrassed while nothing's done. And you're going to say, well, is anybody going to do anything? Well, maybe Nate Silver will do something because he just wrote this article and he's telling people to be profoundly embarrassed. No, Nate Silver doesn't give a flying shit. He's going to, he's happy with this article and, telling people to be profoundly embarrassed. They should be in jail forever. Yeah, they should be in jail forever. I like that. Turns out the experts weren't just wrong at every turn of the coronavirus pandemic. They were actively lying. Yeah. They should be in prison for the rest of their lives for that. And I'm not even BS because it was, for the people who actually paid the price for standing 10 toes down and, on theirs with not taking this BS with, some people did, go and work at hospitals and work on those front lines just because they wanted to see, if the war was really what they, pretended to say it was, and found out that it wasn't. And then, stood up, people really stood on theirs, lost jobs, lost livelihoods. And sorries aren't going to cut it. Just not. But I'm glad we got the most diverse administration in history. Because that's what matters. I was going to read about this kid, Matthew Perna, who committed suicide after being, wrongfully imprisoned following J6. But it's I don't know. I read it last year. It's pretty sad. You want to talk about the United States of injustice. There is no justice. There's no peace, especially for white men in this country. Especially if you're a white man that thinks, fellow men of similar ilk should have an equal opportunity as everyone else, and not just get run over and have to fucking self-flagellate for our entire lives just because we were born pale. And then get the worst jobs, watch fucking society crumble because the guys who could have been competent and taken on leadership roles and jobs were disenfranchised, suppressed, um, discriminated against at every turn in favor of the people who looked right, who said the right narrative stuff, and who sucked those dicks of power. The guys who were already in place who didn't want, and many times their sons to you know to outdo them and to excel beyond their own shadow, so that they make sure that they can't, and that that many of the competent are killed off like old Matthew. But go ahead and read it. It's a great article on AM greatness. Suicide of January 6th to Planet They Broke Him. Worth a read. But anyways, 51 minutes. Don't want to go on for too long. There's this El Salvador thing that caused a lot of outrage. It was this video that Nayib Bukele posted, which was all these prisoners in El Salvador, these MS-13 dudes, going into some new Supermax prison. It's definitely kind of a weird video because, I don't know, it's just like interesting because these guys are like running like Napoleon Dynamite all bent over, running around with these hardo dudes who have like gang raped and, murdered people all the time. And so it's like, I don't know how they got them to do that. And I mean, I know how they got them to do that. Punish the whole group for what one guy does. So if one guy's not doing it right, they all pay, and then they all make sure that one guy doesn't ever make that mistake again. You know what I'm saying? And that comes by whatever means necessary. But a lot of MSM was feeling super bad for these guys. I don't know. I like that's just the thing now. The destroyers want to destroy, so they said that this was inhumane and so 40,000 inmates in 32 mass cells. That sounds pretty bad. The way you had these guys all up, I mean, I didn't really think it was that bad to have them sit like that. But again, if there is only 32 mega cells for 40,000 dudes, I don't know. I mean, just talking about J6 guys getting abused. You don't want. I mean, even though comparing J6 guys to these guys is night and day, because all these tattoos that you see, you don't get these tattoos unless you were raped or murdered. And so, harder to have quite the same empathy for these guys. But at the same time, they still, should have some, I guess, a bed to sleep in and their own food, and shouldn't have to, be huddled up next to. But this isn't how they are in the actual, once they're in the prison. That's just how they got to get transported. The sheer depth of dehumanization is exceptional, even to me. I mean, it's hard to tell what's an op now and what's not. Like, obviously, all the people on the right were saying this is amazing, this is amazing, and it's like, on one hand, it's good that they have like a nice facility to take these guys to, and that these guys are like, mental cells are just 80 beds for every 100 people. Only 2 toilets and 2 sinks between 100 guys. I mean, that's fucked. That is kind of fucked. Even though I'm all for like getting rid of some of these MS-13 guys, and they are an issue. But 2 beds, 2 sinks for 100 guys. I mean, 2 toilets, 2 sinks, 80 beds for 100 people. I mean, inevitably going to be fighting and killing amongst them. So it's like, I mean, yeah, these guys are rapists and murderers, but who are the people locking them up? The biggest rapists and murderers of all time on a mass scale. So it's like, do I really want to be standing for them now? I mean, you get caught in that with the right. They're always just like, oh yeah, any sick new prisons or guns or punishment is cool because we're stupid. We're lobotomized, just like the left, except in the opposite way, and we're lobotomized into accepting the thin blue line, support all troops. These prisons are amazing. Everything that is, like totalitarian porn is cool, and it's not cool either. It's so hard to get on either one of these boats. The right and the left are just pure. The red and the blue, just pure death. They're just they're both. It's a uniparty party that's just getting you going from each angle. We're defunding the local police while we nationalize police. Well, the right talks about how they love police while all the good police are taken out of police, and then the new police are totalitarian, nationalized police that are going to be putting people in these mega prisons that the right have said are awesome, and they work in El Salvador, so none of them will have the nutsack or the ability to say that they don't work when they bring them here to America. And so when the FEMA camps get open, all the righties will be saying, ooh, soy jack. Post a soy jack face. Oh, what? That's my new Wojak. Me and the FEMA. Wow, FEMA camps are cool. Wow. And that's the new right now. Unfortunately, I thought new right had a little bit more, IQ, discernment, but it doesn't seem like it. So they love these El Salvador prisons. The left, an absolute hysteria over it. Can't get on board with either reaction, but you have to have one of the other reactions. So again, tough situation to win in. But we're going to win anyways, guys. It is what it is. That's it for the morning rants. Get the morning black pill out of the way. We'll get you on this evening with something better. This guy was a good follow. Found him. Millions, maybe billions of dollars have been spent to make you hate this kind of man. It's true. It's true. I'll leave that. That's some food for thought. Don't let them win, boys. Stay strong.